Probably could have chosen a better shirt to wear to make this video. You guys might get a nip slip. Might happen. This is PG-13. People have to pay for that. We gotta talk about this Batman movie, guys. It's really good. Really, really good. No spoilers ahead. I'm going to go ahead and start off this video by saying, as a Marvel fangirl, this movie trumps probably 90 to 95% of the MCU without even really batting an eye. 90 to 95%. Easy. And pretty much any movie that's in the DCEU, except for maybe the Suicide Squad, the new one. But it's really hard to compare these two films because they're so vastly different. I enjoyed both of those movies a lot for two different reasons, and we'll get into why. This movie is so well written, it actually blows my mind because it's a dark and gritty noir story, yet I caught myself smiling so many times for different reasons that I probably shouldn't be smiling at. I should probably go to therapy for that. But right off the bat, no pun intended, I would like to say that Robert Pattinson playing Bruce Wayne does a really good job. Really, really good job. And if you go into this movie with an open mind and not be clouded by the couple of Batman movies that we've had over the last few years, you will really enjoy this film. You don't get much of an origin story. Actually, you don't get really any origin story for Batman, but I'm actually really happy about that because I do not need to see Bruce Wayne's parents die to know it's a Batman story. We're good there. Though his family does have a big role in the movie, I'm not going to say why, you'll find out when you see it. Throughout this movie, you get to see Batman enter the scene through other people's point of views, not necessarily through his point of view. Like when he arrives on the scene, the amount of like tension and like respect and fear he gets is just awesome. It's like he walks out of the shadows, and regardless of the scenario, he like walks out of the shadows super calmly and just menacingly. And it's so good. It's so good every single time it happens. It's a tense movie, and I'm glad that they give Batman the respect that he deserves, and also you can feel that fear that he kind of instills in them through the movie. You really feel that. This movie feels really unique, even for a Batman movie, and it allows you to see the world's greatest detective trying to piece together this ever-expanding, really wide, long-lasting crime that has since been covered up. And everything that gets revealed is revealed very organically, and things that happened in the past that were covered up are very organic, and they give you explanation, they give you reasoning, they give you motivation. That's really good. That's really, really good quality. And the Riddler is the perfect character to bring all of this like deceit and corruption from the past into the modern day and just bring it all to light as Batman and Commissioner Gordon tried to basically go on a wild goose chase trying to figure it out. It's like one thing that the Riddler does really well is like he'll reveal one thing that happened in the past and that leads to another thing. So he gives you a clue to reveal the next thing and then another thing and then another thing, and it just keeps going and it goes deeper and deeper and it gets really weird. And the way the Riddler is presented and performed in this movie is really, really good. It's very strong performance from the actor, and it fits really well in the context of the universe. And even when the riddles are solved, they end up having to basically rethink, like go back and rethink about everything because it ends up being like slightly wrong, or they thought about it and got the wrong answer and it led them in a wrong direction. And it's just stuff like that that's just so well written because it's very, I guess human would be the right word to say, is for you to think the riddle is solved and go in one direction just to find out that leads nowhere and just have to backtrack and go to another direction. That's really well done because both paths are justifiably a good answer for the riddle that's given, but it's not the correct one. I also really like that in the movie you have the two intros for the two mains. So like Batman and the Riddler, their intros are both mirrored where they come out of the shadows and they kind of do what they want to do. I like that aspect as well. This movie is 3 hours long. It's pretty long, yes, but it never actually felt like it was 3 hours long. Like for a good hour and a half to 2 hours, it kept you on. It kept your attention really strong into the story. Maybe like 2 hours and 15, 2 hours and 30, it kind of started to scrape a little bit, but then ramps back up there towards the end to keep your attention. So it only really slows down during one part. Any other part, I was actually super engaged in the story, which is really hard to do for a really long film that's 3 hours long. Also, one of my worries about the Batman was that it was rated PG-13. However, they played with that PG-13 really well because they showed you some pretty sinister stuff, like really dark, creepy, tense, like horrific stuff being done to people either by the Riddler or by Batman or whoever. And I don't think it doesn't feel like it's PG-13 because it feels like a thriller horror-esque movie that just features Batman. It doesn't feel like a Batman movie. Also really like that they let Gotham have its like gothic architecture without it being so campy or like really in your face. Like Bruce Wayne's mansion, the Wayne mansion, is pretty much like the Casper Castle from way back in the day. It's really like gothic architecture, but it never like throws it in your face in any kind of way. They also use the raining aesthetic really well, and it's because this movie is the majority of the time in the dark, they also play really well with the orange colors and the red color palette during the dark like lit scenes or like the nighttime that's raining, and it it sets the tense vibe through this movie really, really well. It fits it super well because it's in a dark scene and then something bright like red or orange pops up and it just immediately catches your eye. And it's really, there's some really good scenes that look incredible. And this movie is not very CGI heavy. So just keep that in mind going into it. It's not going to be like your typical last couple of years Batman's appearances. Even Christopher Nolan, not quite like that. It's much darker, much more human, and much more down to earth and very gritty, very real story that you're going to go through. I also really like the relationship between Gordon and Batman and kind of how they are shown at the beginning, and then that relationship kind of evolves through the story. As I can't really say a whole lot about why it would evolve, but just the way that their characters play off of each other, as well as the way that they trust each other, don't trust each other, and then learn to trust each other is done really, really well in this movie. Catwoman is also played really well, and I'm glad, and this is Catwoman, but I'm really glad that they did not just outburst and say, I'm Catwoman, or like she's being called Catwoman. She just happens to be a lady who wears a mask, who's got long nails, who has cats, who drinks milk. Like, she just happens to have those traits, but she's never called Catwoman. So I really like that as well. They leave the campiness away and make it more serious. Really, all the supporting characters were really good, like Alfred and the Penguin. Everybody did a really great job around their characters. Penguin, what is his name? Oh, I'll put it on screen because I can't remember his name. What is his name? I'm Googling it. Colin Farrell. Why couldn't I guess that? Colin Farrell played the Penguin, and he did really good playing the Penguin. And it's like a really strange look. He definitely looks sinister, that's for sure. But he does a really great job playing the Penguin. And it's like he's a side character, or like more of like a background character, but he's in the story so much that he's basically one of the main characters. And it's just done really well. Now, I'm sure that there's going to be people that are complaining or will complain that this version of Batman is too emo. Boo-hoo, get over yourself. He plays the character super well, and I think he fits super well into the context of this universe. Now, the real question is, who would win in a fight? Emo Peter Parker or emo Bruce Wayne? Let me know down below what you think it is. I'm not really going to give my opinion because my thoughts... Emo Peter Parker would clap that boy. But I actually think that's one reason why I liked this version of Bruce Wayne in the over the version that was in the Nolan trilogy. This Bruce Wayne from the Nolan trilogy seemed a little more easygoing. Not carefree is not really the word for it, but just like seems more mellow about everything. In the Batman Robert Pattinson, it seems more serious. He takes everything super seriously and to heart, and it's so intense with everything that he has to do. I think that's what makes this character better, this version of Batman better than the one from the Nolan trilogy. That's just my opinion. Don't hate me for it. I don't think you actually see Robert Pattinson's Batman smile at all in this film. I said that about Gore the God Butcher in the last video I did, but I actually don't think he does smile at all, ever. He also doesn't spend much time as Bruce Wayne. The majority of the time he is Batman, which I also really appreciate. Because this movie feels like it was written for comic book fans. I feel like it was basically straight taken out of a comic book and just thrown into the cinema. Because the villains do not want to take over the world. They like their, underground, sort of like a criminal underground version of Gotham, rather than just being like an overarching scope of like taking over the entirety of the world's government and yada, yada, yada. It's not like something that Marvel would do that would just like as soon as the third act hits, they're like exploding with what they want to do. It's not the same thing. It's about corruption and power in the city of Gotham, and the Riddler is basically playing the role of Joker from the Nolan trilogy. Riddler is just basically using his brain and a little bit of violence to get Batman to uncover the truth about everything that has happened in the past. And it goes really deep into that story, and it's really well done. Now, I can't say that I like Riddler more than I like Heath Ledger's Joker. However, I do like this Batman movie more than I like the Nolan trilogy. And this is just one film. I like Heath Ledger's Joker a lot, but I really like this Riddler a lot as well. And he might be, if they have like a trilogy with this Batman or this version of Batman, the Riddler might be shown again. So we'll see what happens. I will definitely be going to see this movie again. I recommend you go see it in the theater as soon as possible because it's really good. It's arguably, I'd say, better than top 10. I'd put it in top 5 favorite superhero movies of all time. It doesn't feel like a superhero movie. It feels like a very gritty noir story, detective story that features Batman, which is a really good way to complement Batman, I gotta say. But this video turned out a little bit longer than I thought it'd be. Apparently I had a little more to say about this movie than I thought I was going to. I do want to do a full review eventually when it does eventually release. However, no spoilers. You need to go see this film 100%. It is really good, and that's from a Marvel. All that's Marvel. I like Marvel better. But this movie trumps 95% of the MCU without even batting an eye. That's how good it is. Or at least that's how good I liked it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did like it, leave a sub to show some love. Leave a comment down below. If you've already seen the movie, leave a comment down below and see what you think about it, and actually compare it to the Christopher Nolan series, because I actually like the way this one is feeling better than the Christopher Nolan trilogy. But that might just be on my opinion. That might not be the general public's opinion. So let me know what you think down below. And although this is a DC movie inspired video, I still want you to have a marvelous day.